There's a crop that you plant on Monday and harvest on Sunday. A crop that requires no garden, no sun, and no fertilizer. A crop that contains 40 times the nutritional density of the fully grown vegetable. If you walked into a pharmacy and they sold a pill that was 4,000% more effective than the standard dose, it would be front page news. It would be a miracle drug. But in the agricultural world, this miracle is ignored. We are taught to wait months for harvest. We are taught to ship lettuce from California that has lost half its vitamins by the time it reaches your plate. We are eating dead food when we could be eating living energy. This is the story of microgreens, specifically the sprouts of broccoli, radish, and sunflower. The reason you're buying expensive, nutrient-depleted vegetables instead of growing this superfood on your kitchen counter is because the food industry is built on weight, not health. They sell you water and cellulose. They sell you volume. Microgreens are pure, concentrated life. In this video, we are uncovering the science of the 7-day harvest, why researchers are calling it the future of nutrition, and why the agricultural lobby wants you to keep waiting 90 days for a head of broccoli. To understand the power of this crop, you have to understand the biology of a seed. A seed is a survival capsule. It contains all the genetic information, all the energy, and all the enzymes required to build a massive plant. It is a dormant battery. When you add water, that battery activates. The enzymes wake up. The stored energy is converted into bioavailable nutrients. For the first 7 to 10 days of a plant's life, it is running on this supercharged internal fuel. It is in a state of explosive growth. It is pulling nothing from the soil. It is unpacking its own suitcase. This is the microgreen window. During this phase, the plant is not just a small vegetable, it is a different biological entity entirely. It is a concentrated burst of life force. Once the plant grows its true leaves and starts photosynthesis, it begins to dilute. It builds cellulose for structure. It builds water weight. It becomes a factory for biomass, not a warehouse of nutrition. By harvesting at day 7, you're capturing the plant at its absolute peak of nutritional density. You are eating the potential of the plant, not the structure. You are eating the rocket fuel, not the rocket. The agricultural industry sells you the rocket because it weighs more. They sell you the fiber and water because they can charge by the pound. Microgreens are the essence of the plant, harvested before it has a chance to water itself down. In 1997, researchers at Johns Hopkins University made a discovery that should have revolutionized medicine. They were studying a compound called sulforaphane. It is a potent anti-cancer agent found in cruciferous vegetables like broccoli. They found that mature broccoli is good for you, but then they tested the microgreens. They found that 3-day-old broccoli sprouts contained up to 100 times more sulforaphane than the mature vegetable. Let that number land? 100 times. To get the same anti-cancer benefit of 1 ounce of sprouts, you would have to eat 5 pounds of full-grown broccoli. It is physically impossible to eat that much broccoli, but you can easily eat an ounce of sprouts on a sandwich. Sulforaphane is a heat shock protein activator. It turns on the body's own defense systems. It fights inflammation, it detoxifies the liver, it targets cancer stem cells. Why isn't this prescribed by doctors? Because you cannot patent a sprout. The researchers actually tried to patent it, but the courts ruled that you cannot patent a plant that anyone can grow. So the pharmaceutical companies walked away. They left the most potent natural medicine in the world on the table because they couldn't own it. They rely on you buying synthetic drugs, not growing cellular defense systems in a jar. In 2012, the University of Maryland and the USDA conducted the definitive study on microgreens. They analyzed 25 different varieties. They measured vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin K, and beta-carotene. The results were staggering. On average, microgreens contained 4 to 40 times more nutrients than their mature counterparts. Red cabbage microgreens had 40 times more vitamin E and 6 times more vitamin C than mature red cabbage. Cilantro microgreens had 3 times more beta-carotene. This means that a small garnish of microgreens has more nutritional value than the entire salad it sits on. The modern diet is calorically dense but nutritionally starving. We are obese and malnourished at the same time. We eat empty calories. Microgreens are the antidote. They are calorie-negative nutrition. By integrating them into your diet, you are opting out of the hidden hunger epidemic. You are flooding your body with the raw materials it needs to repair itself. The grocery store sells you volume. They want you to fill your cart. They don't care if the apple you buy has 50% less vitamin A than it did in 1950, which is true due to soil depletion. Microgreens bypass soil depletion because they don't need soil fertility. They run on seed energy. They are the only way to guarantee nutrient density in a depleted world. The average meal in America travels 1,500 miles from farm to plate. Lettuce is grown in Arizona, shipped to a processing plant, washed in chlorine, bagged in plastic, and trucked to New York. By the time you buy it, it is 2 weeks old. It has lost 50% of its water-soluble vitamins. It is a ghost of a vegetable. Microgreens break this chain. They are the ultimate zero-mile diet. You grow them in your kitchen, You harvest them 30 seconds before you eat them. There is no transport. There's no storage. There's no degradation. When you cut a microgreen, the plant is still alive. The enzymes are active. The vitamins are intact. You're eating living food. This decentralization terrifies the food giants. They rely on the complexity of the logistics network to maintain their monopoly. They argue that only they can feed the cities. Microgreens prove that a city can feed itself. If every apartment dweller grew 2 trays of microgreens a week, the demand for shipped lettuce would plummet. The refrigerated trucking industry would lose billions. The plastic packaging industry would suffer. Growing your own greens is an act of economic rebellion. It is declaring that you do not need their trucks, their warehouses, or their plastic bags to survive. You just need a window and a seed. The biggest excuse for not growing food is, I don't have land. I live in an apartment. I have bad soil. Microgreens render these excuses invalid. They require 0 arable land. You can grow them on a shelf. You can grow them in a basement under a shop light. You can grow them in a high-rise. They don't even need soil. You can grow them on hemp mats, coconut coir, or even paper towels. They are hydroponic by nature. This democratizes agriculture. It takes food production out of the hands of the landed elite and puts it into the hands of the urban renter. It means that the most nutritious food in the world is accessible to the person living in a food desert. The barrier to entry is a $5 bag of seeds in a plastic tray. Industrial agriculture relies on the myth that farming is hard, expensive, and requires acres of land. They want you to think of food production as a specialist activity. Microgreens prove that farming can be done on a countertop. It turns every kitchen into a farm. It turns every consumer into a producer. It erases the distinction between urban and rural. Most people think of sunflower seeds as a snack or bird feed, but when sprouted, the sunflower microgreen is a complete protein source. It contains 25% protein. It is rich in healthy fats, iron, and calcium. It has a nutty, crunchy texture that is substantial enough to replace meat in a salad. But the real magic is the volume. 1 cup of sunflower seeds grows into 10 cups of greens. It is a biomass multiplier. During food shortages or price spikes, sunflower seeds are cheap. A 50-pound bag of black oil sunflower seeds costs $30 at a feed store. That bag can produce 500 pounds of fresh, nutrient-dense greens. This is the ultimate survival ration. It turns a shelf-stable dry good into fresh produce in 7 days. The industry sells you emergency food buckets full of freeze-dried sludge for thousands of dollars. They don't tell you that a bag of sunflower seeds is a better survival kit. They monetize your fear of starvation. Microgreens give you the tool to prevent it. Sunflower greens are robust. They don't wilt like lettuce. They have a crunch that satisfies the need for texture. They are the steak of the microgreen world. One of the reasons people hate vegetables is that store-bought vegetables taste like water and cardboard. They are bred for yield, not flavor. Microgreens are flavor concentrates. A radish microgreen tastes spicier than a full-grown radish. A cilantro microgreen tastes like a distillation of the herb. A basil microgreen is intensely aromatic. This intensity allows you to use less salt, less sugar, and less fat in your cooking. The flavor comes from the plant, not the sauce. Chefs have known this for 20 years. They use microgreens to make $50 plates of food taste incredible, but they kept it a garnish secret. They didn't tell you that you could grow the main course. When you eat microgreens, you are retraining your palate. You're remembering what plants are supposed to taste like. You're waking up taste buds that have been dulled by processed food. The processed food industry spends billions engineering hyper-palatable junk food. They use chemicals to trick your brain. Microgreens use biology to delight your tongue. It is a return to authentic sensory experience. Let's talk money. At Whole Foods, a tiny 2-ounce clamshell of microgreens sells for $5. That is $40 a pound. It is one of the most expensive crops per pound in the world. But to grow it costs pennies. A pound of broccoli seeds costs $20. That pound of seeds produces 10 to 12 pounds of greens. That is a market value of $480. You are turning $20 of seeds into $480 of food. That is a 2,300% return on investment in 7 days. There's no stock, no bond, no crypto that gives you that kind of return. Why do they charge so much? Because of the labor of packaging and the cost of shipping air. The greens are fluffy. When you grow it yourself, you capture that margin. You are paying yourself $40 a pound to water a tray once a day. The grocery store markup on microgreens is criminal. It is a tax on those who don't know how to grow. By growing your own, you're engaging in economic arbitrage. You're exploiting the inefficiency of the market for your own gain. You are printing value in your kitchen. The final secret is the staggered cycle. In a traditional garden, you have a harvest season. You get all your tomatoes in August. You get all your corn in September. It is a feast or famine cycle. With microgreens, you create a perpetual harvest. You plant one tray on Monday. You plant another on Thursday. You harvest the first tray on the following Monday. You harvest the second on Thursday. You create a conveyor belt of fresh food that never stops. It is independent of the seasons. It works in winter. It works in summer. It works in a drought. You are no longer waiting for the harvest. You are living in the harvest. This consistency is what builds true food security. It isn't about having 500 pounds of potatoes in the cellar. It is about knowing that you have fresh greens tomorrow and the next day and the next. It changes your psychology. You stop worrying about the grocery store running out of lettuce. You stop worrying about E. coli recalls. You control the source. When you look at a tray of microgreens, don't just see tiny plants. See a declaration of independence. Every tray you grow is a vote against the industrial food system. It is a vote against the nutrient-depleted soils of factory farms. It is a vote against the carbon footprint of long-distance shipping. The agricultural giants want you to believe that feeding yourself is hard. They want you to believe it requires acres of land and thousands of dollars in equipment. They want you to feel small and helpless, so you will buy their products. Microgreens prove them wrong. They prove that the most powerful nutrition on earth is also the simplest to produce. You have the space. You have the time, 5 minutes a day. The only thing you were missing was the knowledge. Now you have that too. You can go to the store and buy a bag of dead lettuce for $5, or you can buy a bag of seeds for $5 and eat like a king for a month. The choice is yours. The tray is waiting. The seeds are ready to explode. I am not telling you to become a farmer. I am telling you to become a producer. Start with one tray. Taste the difference. Feel the energy. And you will never look at the produce aisle the same way again. If this video opened your eyes, subscribe and hit the bell. Every like and share preserves the knowledge they tried to hide. The next vault opens soon.